Hello again. We have a very special topic now that as a woman, I'm very much interested. We have Women Leaders panel. We want to see more women in the world and in Turkey. And to discuss this theme, I would like to welcome on stage Ms. Gözde Dizdar, ICP board member, Turkey.
Öncelikle herkese bir kere daha hoş geldiniz demek istiyorum.
Hello everyone. The International Cooperation Platform, and this panel is one of the pioneering panels of this summit. So first of all, I'd like to thank everyone. The Bosphorus Summit has been the fruit of a collective work and lots of efforts. And of course, at the background of this, there are people who have contributed greatly to make this event happen. And the most important contribution is to put forward a vision. And one of the points that we underline is that for 11 years, the women's panel is one of the most important panels of the Bosphorus Summit for the past 11 years. So myself being a board member of UIP, I'd like to thank the organizers. We always joke about the following. In such international organizations, we always adapt them from abroad to Turkey. But once UIP were to start this women's panels in Davos Summit, they started 3 years after UIP, they started having a women's panel. So we were saying that, oh, the Davos Summit is copying us. So we talk about this. In this women's panel, there are 3 women panelists. I'd like to invite Ms. Güldal Akşit. She has so many different adjectives that define her, but she is in politics, which is the main element of solutions for many of women's problems. So she is a politician, and she is stateswoman, and she is one of the most important figures in the field of politics. So we're honored to have her here.
Tabii bu çerçevede Sayın Güldal
In this respect, Ms. Güldal Akşit is also in the Turkish Parliament, and she's the head of the Gender Equality Commission. She has worked as the head of the Gender Equality Commission, and she has many advices and suggestions for the young women, so it will be an honor for us to listen to her suggestions. Our second guest shall be with us online. Yes, I hear you. So the second panelist will be with us online. She is Pelin Özay, and she is a board member of TAV, as well as she is a board member of the Foundation of HR Training, Human Resources Training. And for disadvantageous girl and women, she's doing they are providing many important work there. And furthermore, she is also at the advisory board of women's studies in Turkey at London School of Economics. So she is representing Turkey in the most successful way possible. And so we would like to give her a warm welcome once again. And third, it's Professor Dr. Arzu Ezer. So I'd like to invite her to the floor as well. She is a very successful academic, and also she is at the administrative teams. She is an academic at a Stanford University, as well as being the vice chancellor at that university. So in the social and political participation of women in the society, I hope that we shall have a very beneficial talk. And in the changing world, now we can reach so many different databases, sets of data through Google. But the most important thing is to listen to the life journeys of these successful women here. So without further ado, I'd like to give the word to our dear minister. Yes, distinguished guests, distinguished moderator. First of all, when I saw the beautiful flowers, I'd like to, I don't forget the gentleman in the hall, but yesterday it was Women's Labor Women's Day. We say in short, Women's Day. I want to celebrate it. Actually, that's not a day to further than celebrating. It's a day of commemoration. What happened on the 8th of March has made the UN to determine it as the Women's Day. But as time proceeded, it has become to be known as the Women's Day, and it came to be celebrated as the Mother's Day. In whatever way it is, I wish that women shall not be commemorated and remembered only one day a year. So I hope that it's not going to last only 1 day per year. So Ms. Gözde mentioned where to start the word. Let me talk about myself a little bit. How can women exist? How can women be present? Maybe my presentation can be a summary. For that, my father was a government official. He was a civil servant, and my mother was a housewife, and I have a brother. So each year of the school, due to the duty of my father as a civil servant, I went to school each year at a different city of Turkey. So at the level of education, we're really very good today, especially throughout the pandemic. We have shown how successful we are, how good an infrastructure we have with the online education that we have been providing till today. So we can do these kinds of meetings online, we can do education online. But in those times when I went to school, there was none of that, not even television or phones. So I had a childhood where we had really very limited set of opportunities, and I was going to village schools. And sometimes it was village schools that 3 different grades were receiving education in the same classroom. So half an hour it would be the first grade, then another half hour the second grade, and so on. So that was the situation I was in. I was just about to go to the 5th grade, and we were in Tuzluca district of the city of Kars. So my father was insisting to my teacher, Mr. Cemal, when shall they learn about the calculation. I was on the fourth grade, so we were to do summing and subtraction and addition and all that. And he was responding, my father, don't worry, we have time, they will learn. So finally, I learned how to do the four basic calculations, and I started to go to school in Ankara at Ulubatlı Hasan Primary School in Ankara. It was also a government public school, but they had a little bit better education, and our teacher was quite a disciplined Ottoman woman, and she said to the other students, until Güldal learns all the four basic forms of calculation, nobody shall talk to her. So my nose bleed for 1 month. So I'm not trying to tell you about my personal experience, but I'm talking to you about the difference between the educational conditions between a city in the east of Turkey and Ankara, a central city. So finally, I passed all my classes successfully. Then I went to secondary school. Then I went to high school. But then my father was appointed to a position in Urfa, in a city that's also in the east of Turkey. So after Ankara, I needed to finish high school in Urfa, and there were really huge gaps, huge differences of levels of education between all those schools in Turkey. So afterwards, after high school, it was the university entrance examinations time, and there was this huge book of preparatory exams to university. So I studied from that book, and I won the political sciences department of Hacettepe University. And some universities were giving a certain amount of a quota. So from that quota, they could enter any departments they want. So, but after I gave the exam, they said to me that, oh, we're so sorry, Miss Güldal, but that's the quota. But finally, I was able to go to the department that I chose at Hacettepe University. And then my family decided to live in Istanbul. So at that, I was trying to increase my GPA in order to become a transfer student at Bosphorus University. But I took the entrance examinations once again, and I won the Department of Law at Istanbul University. So he was telling me, leave this political science aside, just go and study law, because law is basic to all human sciences and it's basic to politics as well. So here is the advantage of going to school in different cities, not the central ones, because I was able to go to primary school at the age of 5. Whereas the obligation was to be 7, but I was able to go at 5 when I was 5. So, and I learned how to read and write really easily before going to school. So they pitied me and they enrolled me in primary school. So I don't have any memories of the first grade at primary school. And I, of course, finished school really, really early. But the years that I gained back then was the years that I lost at the first 2 years of the university. Then I entered to the law department of Istanbul University. And then after graduation, I have become the legal assistant of one of the fundamental companies in Turkey. I worked in this field for 20 years and I really loved my job. And it was at that point that the gates to doing politics, becoming a politician, were open to me. Our president, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, who was the head of the party at that time, he asked me to become a politician. He asked me to participate. So in my father's past also, there are certain involvements with the politics, but becoming an active politician never passed my mind. So I was always surprised by like how people were able to organize and become huge political parties. So probably God has heard me asking that question, and He put me right in the middle of a political party. So that's how I became one of the founders of this political party. And it took about a year to found a party. No, after 1 year of founding the party, it became in power. AKP came to power, and our first head was Mr. Abdullah Gül. So I started as Deputy of Istanbul and Minister of Tourism. That's how I started my political career. And that's a really different thing, because imagine you work in the private sector, you never had anything to do with the public institution, with the government, and all of a sudden you find yourself in as a part of the government. So I remember that we were received by the Prime Minister Tayyip Erdogan by then, and the President was Ahmet Necdet Sezer. So I stopped myself for a moment. I looked at myself in the mirror and I asked myself, where are you going? You are going to the head, to the summit of the country, of the government. So I wish that all my female friends, colleagues get to live such significant experiences in their career. So when I became the Minister of Tourism at the first government, and this was sensational because AK Party is known to be a more conservative party, and the only women minister of the new government gets to be the Minister of Tourism. So imagine you are a women minister and you are the Minister of Tourism. So it was a really difficult time to become the Minister of Tourism because there was the Gulf War and all. So it was really a difficult, challenging period, but I was asking myself, what can I do for Turkey? And I'm not going to, let me mention that I have been really successful. And we had a visit to China with our with the head of the party, and it was very interesting for them to have a woman minister of tourism. So he told me, he asked us, tell me, you are as a member of a brand new party who was established in just 15 months ago, and how could this party, such a new party, come to power in such a short time, and how could it be so successful in such a short time? So when you think of China, there is a different structure that's involved in the scene there. So this was really beautiful to represent my country there and in such environments. And it was followed by events in the same manner. In the next government of Tayyip Erdogan, I was once again the minister. And then I became the minister of government, which was allocated for the family and women's matters. And let me mention the following. I say that in order to put forward the women's perspective. I was the advisor. My advisor at the Ministry of Tourism told me at the end of my duty, at the end of my period in that duty, they told me, when you first came to become the minister, we were thinking, oh my God, what are we going to do with her? But you used the authorities you had in such a beneficial way. You did so much great work. I just want to tell you how much respect I have for you and how much appreciation I have for your work. Then I told them, women, once we are given the responsibility, once we are given the position, we do an enormous effort and we really reach that target. We really reach those objectives. So in my next duty as a minister, I was the minister in a more challenging area, women. all the disadvantaged groups, the disabled, the children, the elderly. So all of those are the people think that these need to be responsibilities of women, but I think this is just a ministry for men. Why would such tiring subjects be only given to women? But thank God that we were able to overcome all those challenging themes. There I took the advantage, I benefited from being a person who works in the field of law. So I was able to do 14 different laws and regulations concerning women while I was the minister. So many regulations which have facilitated, which have made our lives, which we have made the lives of women easier. Thank God we owe them to the law drafts that we have prepared throughout my service. And our prime minister by then, Mr. Erdogan, told me, Miss Güldal, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to prove us your identity as a legal personnel? And I told him, this really gives me so much pleasure because it's valuable to do once the work that one is most cognizant of, that it's good to do what you have formation for. I have been in politics for so many years. I have worked as a minister. I am the founder of the Commission of Equal Opportunities for Women. So the commission was established, and let me share with you a memory of mine. So the male deputies had the following treatment. Oh, welcome to power, Miss Minister. We're wondering how you shall make it possible to make men equal to women, women equal to men. I do not have such a concern, I said. Actually, my concern would be more how to equate men to women, because women are already ahead of men. So thus, all of the deputies, the male deputies, 3 to 5 deputies who were in my commission, they worked more than women. And in the next period, who wanted to become a part of this commission most were generally the male deputy members. And so we had 10 sub-commissions in that commission. So domestic violence, the early marriages for girl children, different forms of violence in the household, mobbing, and all the pressure that is exerted on women by men is a part was among the work that we conducted at that commission. Mobbing was not even a term by then, but we made a subcommission for mobbing. We evaluated it. So thank God we were able to show if a woman wants it, she will do it. So we did so many things with that in mind. So this is a good side of politics. If you are given the opportunity, you can do so many things. And I want to come to the issue of women. So we always talk about the equality of women and men, but the men and women are not physically equal. So we are not trying in an effort to equate women and men, but once the women are given an opportunity, be sure, rest assured, my dear colleagues, women are able to provide all sorts of duties and services just as good as men, and sometimes even better than men, and they have proven that they have succeeded in that. So long as they are given the opportunities, they will succeed in that. So we are trying to shed light upon those roads. My colleague who's a professor, universities are so important in education. I'm a part of the advisory board at a university, so I know about academic life quite well. So I know how much you have to define an objective for women. When you say this is to be done, they can see no impediment, so long as you give them the opportunity. Maybe I am talking too much because I'm a politician myself. So please tell me if my time is up. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for listening to me. Dear Minister Güldal Akşit has given us a very beautiful evaluation on the role of the women in politics on the basis of her own experience. So she used the term if they are given the opportunity, but her own story is basically showing us how that opportunity is created by women through her efforts herself. So we thank her once again. So I'd like to give the word now to Pelin Akın Özay. So she's one of the most brightest faces of a generation. She's endowed with so many adjectives, but one of the most important ones is that she's a friend of ours, and now she also became a mother. Thank you so much. I'd like to have been with you today, but Corona and Kerim are keeping me apart from you. So let me talk about it as the business world and young women. So I am a board member of the Akfen Holding. So our sector is mostly infrastructure, transport, IDO, Mersin Harbor, energy, construction, hotels. We are a varied group that provides services. So I'm one of the 2 female members of the executive board. As our minister mentioned, we should not limit commemorating women to just 1 day per year, because if we do so, the rest of the days of the year, 364 days, get to be that of men. So women, not only in the social life, at work or at home, women are can multitask in 1,000 different areas, and they are able to succeed greatly in all of those areas. So we should celebrate each day of the year for all the women. And also, I'd like to add the following. In the infrastructure sector or in more patriarchal-dominated sectors, maybe women had more difficulty until now, but we see that it's changing. And the women theme is being talked about quite a lot, and the active participation of the organizations is giving us so much courage in that, and women see that courage in themselves, and they shouldn't be afraid to take steps, and we are in an age where they are not afraid to take those steps built on the courage. So young people have less reservations about that. But I was very young myself also when I started to work in this field. So I was both the youngest one and the only woman in most of the business environments that I was in. But I I saw this not as an obstacle, but as an opportunity. So I was listening to people's opinions, but I was trying to make mine get to be approved without them noticing. So as a matter of experience and the maturity I have at this moment, I can say that in the name of women, that we can be more comfortable once we have more experience and more knowledge. So I'd like to repeat the following message. As you know, in February, Saudi Arabia sent a space gadget to a space vehicle to the space, and the name of that vehicle was Hope, and the lead researcher in that team was a woman. So I can say that clearly. So hopefully we shall take such great steps, and we are expecting the days that
Çok teşekkürler Pelin'cim.
Thank you so much, Pelin.
Bu iş hayatında kadının rolünü gene kendi
Thank you very much, Pelin. Pelin gave us an account of her own experience to tell about the experiences of the women in business. So in many projects, we see that being a woman can be very challenging. But at a very young age, she has achieved many successes. And this shows that women can sometimes ensure equality of opportunities through their own efforts. Güldal actually told us about the role of women in politics. Pelin told us about the role of women in business. So the women's challenge of existence in these two areas we know about now, but being a woman in academia can also be very difficult. So I would like to pass the floor to Professor Arzu Azer. She will be giving her own perspective about the role of women in Turkey and around the world, and she will also tell us about her own story. First of all, I would like to thank ICP for this very important panel and women's employment, women's role in economics is a hot topic all around the world. Davos, the World Economic Forum, publishes a report every year on the conditions of women, and this is very important in sustainability. Unfortunately, Turkey ranked in the 139th place among 150 countries. Of course, there are various areas such as access to employment, access to services. The report analyzes each of these areas. Of course, we can talk a lot about what to do, but I will give you the perspective in the academia. Let me start with a few numbers. Today, among all academics, the ratio of women is 45%. It's almost half of the total academics. But when we look at the details, we see only 32% of the professors are women. 40% of the associate professors are women, and 44% of lecturers are women. Among the research assistants, we see 50% of them are women. And here there is a metaphor called the academic pipeline. We see that in lower positions such as lecturer and research assistant, in these positions the amount of women is about 50%, but in more senior positions we see women have challenges in accessing these positions. Of course, there are many reasons for this because there are socially constructed roles for women. Women have to get married or have children and they have to stay at home and they may not able to go back to their academic career, and even if they go back they have to start from scratch. I was working in a bank before. In 1992, I started working in a bank. After I graduated, I worked at the banks for many years. During the crisis of 2001, I was working in the auditing department in a bank. And after that, I started my academic career in 2009. And after 10 years, last March, I became the assistant director, and I did this through hard work. This is very important because it is very important for a woman to get top jobs in an institution. Men don't want that, and I'm proud to say that my university chooses its managers on the basis of competence. But in another institution, a man could easily replace me even if they did half the work I did. So we are talking about leaders. And what is leadership? Leadership without gender discrimination. And because not all people, all managers are leaders. To be a leader, you have to lead the people working in your organization, and you have to convince them to your vision. And women have these characteristics. They are able to touch people. They are able to motivate people. Women have more advantages in doing that. I believe I can do that personally, but there is a hard work behind that. Contacting with each and every employee and your objective, and convincing them to achieve your objectives. And I think women have more advantages in doing that. But there is a glass ceiling against women. This is a metaphor, actually. We see this in the business life a lot. We did a study in the finance industry. We looked at glass ceiling in the finance industry because there are a lot of women working in this industry, but there are very few women in executive positions. And in higher education industry, there's the glass ceiling as well. Glass ceiling means invisible, uncertain barriers. Glass ceiling means the top position that a person can achieve. That an individual believes that this is the position, this is the best position I can achieve in this organization. These are often the barriers created by women themselves because they don't have a lot of role models. We have to have more role models, and women have to accept these social roles. Maybe they should have more self-confidence to achieve better positions in the professional life, because women are not incompetent in comparison to men, but they set some limits to themselves. These are internal factors, and there are also the external factors, such as the patriarchal system excluding women. We have to overcome this. We have to fight against them. We have to against that. We have to be self-confident, and also women's solidarity is very important to overcome these barriers. And academics, lecturers, maybe we should approach girls with positive discrimination to encourage them. This is the situation on our side, and lecturers, academics play an important role to overcome that glass ceiling, and we need subsidy programs. Last June, Germany passed a bill which requires all companies who have 4 members in their executive board have to have at least 1 woman on that board. This is very important. Why? Because there is the glass ceiling index published by the Economist magazine every year, and the number 1 countries on that list are the Scandinavian countries. And how do they do that? We need to analyze this so that we can do the same thing. Of course, there are some political sanctions there, just like the bill I mentioned in Germany. There are quotas for women that are legally mandatory. For example, in the Scandinavian countries, 40% of management positions have to be given to women. And there is the socially constructed roles for women, because it is often the women who undertake the caring of children. So Scandinavian countries created a mechanism to address that problem, and we see that 40% of their management positions are held by women, so they achieved this. So The ministry also plays a very important role here. They have very important initiatives. I think these positions, these political positions, are direly needed. And academics, us, have a very important function if we encourage our girls to set more ambitious goals in their career plans, to encourage them to break the great glass ceiling. We have a very important role, and most importantly, we have to overcome these internal barriers. This is the end of my speech. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. May I add something? Yes, we talked about numbers, and I forgot to give you some examples. In our companies, although we are in the infrastructure industry, at IDO, we have a woman captain. In Acacia Mining Company, we have a women's cooperative. And in the holding, we have the microfinancing program for women in manufacturing. So we created an association to do that. And we also have a TECAV foundation which supports women and young people in different areas such as hygiene, parenting, cultural exchanges, etc. And I also work on the board of the Turkish Businesswomen Association. I play active role in educational programs, and these organizations play an important role in breaking the glass ceiling. Of course, I'm not saying this problem is unimportant. I'm trying to say we are doing what is necessary to solve this problem. Thank you very much. Today we looked at women's position in today's world from 3 different perspectives. I would like to conclude this panel with a remark. There is the women's signature in everything that leaves a trace in the world. And also Virginia Woolf once said, everything anonymous in history was actually a woman, done by a woman. So I would like to thank our panelists who have honored us today, and also I would like to thank our audience for joining us after the lunch, because it's difficult to concentrate after the lunch. So I would like to thank the gentleman in the front row. Now I would like to pass the floor to Cengiz Özgencil. Before that, I would also like to thank the translators and the technical team, because this is day 2. We are approaching the end of our program. Since the first day of our program, we heard various speeches in different languages, and there is translation going on. I would like to thank them for their support, and I would like to thank the technical team. Thank you very much, because as you know, I don't like talking, I like doing. But you encouraged me to say something, because during the opening remarks, you made a very good compliment to me, for me. First of all, I would like to emphasize, congratulate the International Women's Day. As the minister said, and of course, not only the women who work in a business, also the women working at home, they also deserve a celebration. And when we planned this panel 10 years ago, it was no coincidence. We did a significant research on the share of women in the global economy. In the US, it's about 40%. In Europe, it's higher than 40%, but in the Middle East and in Turkey, there are different customs and traditions. So the share of women in the economy is below 25%. So we decided to include a fixed panel in this international summit to discuss the contribution of women to the economy. And finally, 3 years later, our honorary chairman, Talal Abu Ghazali, hosted me in Jordan. In the first year, the general manager was a panelist here, and he came to me and said, please don't go anywhere. My wife wants to have you host you for dinner. And I went to their house, and after the dinner, his wife brought different types of clothes into the room. He said, in the first year, I participated in the meeting, in your conference, and I participated in the women's session, and there were very nice speeches. And before I got married, I was a tailor. But after listening to that panel, I talked to my husband. I said, the children are old enough now. I started my own business at a textile workshop. And last year, distinguished Pakistani activist, a lady in her hometown, had to see a male doctor before giving birth to her child. And because of the traditions in Pakistan, she was harassed by other men because she was examined by a male doctor. This activist called Begum Shah Begum, who was also a board member at our conference, she had to hide for months. And because of that, she received an honorary award from the United Nations. In our 5th year, she came and delivered a speech at our conference, and we had a meeting with her. She had a very lovely meeting. She said they had an agreement with a bank, and they were planning to establish a maternity hospital in their hometown. She came back and she thanked us for our support. Why am I telling this? Because 10 years ago, we started this series of panels, and these are the examples that we inspired. We hope we will be inspiring more projects. We would like to thank Mr. Cengiz Özgencil for including this women's panel in this organization and for giving us the opportunity to address thousands of people who are listening to us online. So this is the most successful panel. And I think we finished on time, but Cengiz Özgencil extended our session a little bit. And joking aside, thank you very much for listening to us. I would like to thank the panelists as well. Hope to see you in the future again. Thank you. A final remark. We always say there is a woman behind every successful man. But there is another truth also. Behind every woman, there is a man. Thank you.
Thank you very much for our valuable guests and all. Now we will have our next panel very soon
Pelin'cim çok teşekkür ederim.
without any break. So please
Ahmet,
stay
bir
with
fotoğraf
us.
çekelim mi?